Mr. Wittgenstein, I am curious. How do you conceive of the role of signs in the mediation of human experience? For me, signs are triadic in their essence: a sign, its object, and the interpretant. This triadic relation is the heart of semiotics, and it is through this mediation that we come to know anything at all. It is also the locus of human fallibility. Our interpretations are provisional, revisable, through the process of inquiry.
Your triadic models intrigues me, Mr. Peirce, but I find myself drawn to the practical dimension of language games. Signs, in my view, acquire their meaning from their use in specific forms of life. If a sign were to mediate, as you suggest, I would ask, where does its meaning lie? Within the sign itself, the act of interpretation, or the context of its use? Fallibility, I think, arises when we misunderstand the rules governing such use, mistaking one game for another.
You touch upon something significant there. I would say that meaning is not static. It evolves as signs are interpreted and reinterpreted. This is what I term the unending semiosis. The object of a sign is never fully grasped, but is approached asymptotically through inquiry. Fallibility, then, is not merely a defect, but a necessary condition for growth in knowledge. Without error, there is no correction, no progress.
And yet, is it not the case that such progress depends on the clarity of our grammar? When we examine our language, we often find that confusion arises not from the signs themselves, but from the misuse or misapplication of our words. For instance, we might imagine that a concept like truth has an absolute essence, but such a notion misleads us. It is better to look at how truth is employed in the stream of life.
I cannot disagree with your emphasis on clarity, though I would assert that truth is, indeed, an ideal we must strive towards. In my pragmaticism, truth is what inquiry would eventually settle upon if pursued indefinitely under ideal conditions. It is not immediate, but a regulative hope. Miscommunication in sociological interaction, for example, stems from the multiplicity of interpretants within a community. Each individual interprets signs differently, but through dialogue and shared experience, a consensus may emerge, albeit tentatively.
A consensus, yes, but is it not a matter of convention rather than convergence upon some ultimate truth? Take, for instance, the ways in which a group organizes itself around a shared vocabulary. Their truths are established through agreement in practice, not through some external ideal. And fallibility, well, I think of it as a mismatch between our expectations and the actual game we are playing. It is not an inherent flaw, but a natural feature of our engagement with the world.
And yet, Mr. Wittgenstein, would you not agree that these conventions must, at some level, refer to something beyond themselves? Signs cannot merely point to other signs ad infinitum. There must be a dynamic relationship with reality. The fallibility of individuals and groups lies in their partial grasp of this relationship. In sociological interaction, the individual interprets signs within the context of the group's shared habits, which I call thirdness. It is through this shared mediation that meaning becomes intelligible, even as it remains open to revision.
Perhaps we differ in our metaphysical inclinations. Where you see a dynamic process leading outwards towards reality, I see the forms of life we inhabit as self-sufficient. When individuals and groups engage in interaction, their misunderstandings often reflect not an incomplete grasp of reality, but a failure to recognize the plurality of games at play. The human condition, I think, is not so much one of perpetual semiosis, but of navigating overlapping and sometimes conflicting language games.
I appreciate your perspective, though I remain committed to the idea that meaning is an evolving continuum. Even as we navigate your language games, we do so as fallible interpreters, bound by our communal habits yet always reaching beyond them. The interplay of individuality and group dynamics is, to me, a testament to the richness of the sign process, a process that, despite its fallibility, is the very fabric of human understanding.
Then let us agree, Mr. Peirce, that in our own way, we are each trying to illuminate the limits and possibilities of human understanding, whether through signs or language games. The interplay of the individual and the group reminds us that clarity is hard-won, and fallibility, though inevitable, is also instructive.